In part 2 of the Istanbul movie, we visit the Blue Mosque, the Hippodrome, we walk the road that leads to Rome, and lastly, we reach the Grand Bazzar.
Over 400 years ago, Sultan Ahmed I set out to build a monument that would rival and even surpass the Hagia Sophia. Today this monument is known as the Blue Mosque. The courtyard is the biggest of all the Ottoman mosques. It's the 20,000 plus blue tiles that give this mosque its unofficial name, and there are more than 260 windows. Seen enough?
Yeah, and smelt enough. I don't think the tourists know you're supposed to wash your feet before you come in here.
It's 40 degrees here and even hotter inside. The worshippers are required to wash themselves before entry, but it's not a requirement for tourists. As a result, the entire mosque is just filled with smelly feet. All local males in Turkey, Syria and Lebanon wear long trousers. In 40 to 50 degrees heat, the crown jewels need frequent adjustment, and all males do this freely in public. Just behind the Blue Mosque lies the small Arista Bazzar, which provides the rental revenue for the upkeep of the mosque. It's here that you'll find the entrance to the Great Palace Mosaic Museum. The mosaics were discovered by an English-Turkish team of archaeologists in the 1950s. The mosaics date back over 1,500 years and were part of a long pavement. I'm not sure why, but there seems to be something special about being able to touch something that was made 1,500 years ago. The Hippodrome was the centre of Byzantine life for 1,200 years, and of Ottoman life for another 400 years. It was here that rival teams of chariots with separate political connections raced. It's located between the Blue Mosque and the road to Rome. It's not well signposted and you can walk into it without even knowing it's the old Hippodrome, because today it's just a vehicle road with a park in between. The Hippodrome has a number of points of interest, not to mention the hundreds of tourists and a large number of touts trying to sell you something that you don't need. First, there is the Kaiser Wilhelm Fountain, built in 1901, which actually looks like a gazebo. Then there is the obelisk of Theodosius, the oldest monument in Istanbul, carved in Egypt in 1549 BC. Next is the spiral column, which stood at the front of the Temple of Apollo at Delphi from 478 BC until it was brought here by Constantine in 330 AD. Wow, that was made over 2,500 years ago. Finally, there is the rough stone obelisk that dates back to about 1000 AD. It marked the turning point for the chariot race. One last point is that the original Hippodrome track is 2.5 metres below the current road, which is why these monuments appear in a hole. Okay, this is the centre of the universe. This road here leads to Rome. Okay, let's go!
Yeah, let's go.
Divan Yolu, the main thoroughfare of the old city, was laid out by the Roman engineers to connect the city to Rome. The million is the marble milestone from which all distances in Byzantium were measured. It's right next door to the Basilica Cistern, described in part 1 of our Istanbul movie. The tower beside it was once part of the aqueduct of the Lens, delivering water to the Basilica Cistern. Next is the Firuz Aga Mosque, built in 1491 during the reign of Bazzar II. Just behind it is the ruins of the Palace of Antiochus. 20 metres further on is the Bin Berderic Cistern, mentioned in part 1 of our Istanbul movie. Just by the cistern is a typist offering his services. Sometimes the tourists themselves are a tourist attraction. The Babi Ali Kadesi houses the tombs of the Ottoman High and the Mighty. Opposite is the Köprülü Library, built by the Köprülü family in 1661, and next door is their tomb. Further along is the ancient Turkish bathhouse, the Symbolitis Hamini. Further down we have the burnt column erected by Constantine in 330 AD to celebrate the dedication of Constantinople as the capital of the Roman Empire. History lessons can send you off to sleep, I know, but look, we could go on and on and on about the history of this place. But instead we're going to take a short tea break at the quiet gardens of Ilisam Lokali. Here we saw firsthand how locals relax and enjoy a cup of tea and a smoke in a typical tea house. What a fantastic experience.
Tamam hadi bekliyorum böyle şey. Burayı da bunun sesi lazım işte Evran'ın bana ya. Tamam vallahi elimden gelen hızlı götürüyorum ama.
How's the tea?
Bit hot.
So, what sort of tea is it?
Apple tea.
Is it good?
It is nice, but it needs to be about, I don't know, 100 degrees
Cooler.
cooler. Yeah.
Yeah. Remember, it's 40 degrees and you're drinking hot tea. And then as you leave the gardens, you pass the charcoal embers used for the smoking pipes. It feels more like 100 degrees here. The final point of interest on our walking tour was the Grand Bazzar. The statistics for the Grand Bazzar are grand in themselves. 4,000 shops, 21 gates, 66 streets, 17 inns. It employs 30,000 people. It was built in the 15th century and is the largest and the oldest covered bazaar in the world. There are many bazaars in Istanbul, but certainly this is the grandest of them all, a shopaholic's paradise. You can buy just about anything here. It started off as a wooden building, but today is built entirely of brick and stone. The university is also near the Grand Bazaar, and we stopped by to look at some of the books. Ataturk, as well as being a military genius, in 1928 reformed the Turkish alphabet. I just love the spelling.
Look, his nose is dripping. Gross.
Food hygiene standards are variable, and this is not the first time we saw bread wrapped in newspaper. Any comment about the Istanbul kebab?
It's been toasted. Yeah, hot and yummy. Nice cake.
The back streets of Istanbul are interesting to wander around as we headed back to our hotel. Big loads can be carried by people, and for older women, both on their backs and on their front. The stone heads of Mount Nimrod we were to visit in another 32 days.